Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the WrestleGasm YouTube channel, where today we're here for episode 9 of my 0000 challenge on TEW 9 Fusion Pro Wrestling. Now, in the last episode, we obviously had the Ultimate 8 Series, our first annual tournament, and it went terribly. Our world champion got injured, the finale was very weak. But it happened, and we are now at the point where we just kind of have to keep moving on. We don't want to waste any momentum, so we're going to keep moving. Sonico will be defending the World Championship to the Ultimate 8 Series winner, Stephen Wolf, in tonight's main event. Sonico just coming off of his broken ribs injury. Not a lot to discuss there. But we have 160 people in attendance for Fusion Pro Wrestling Live number 21. We are at the Frost Studio Theater in Kansas City. So here we go. And about had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Trey Lamar defeated Ryan Davidson in 10:08 by submission with a Lion Tamer. A 40-second rating to kick off the show is awesome. This was just a momentum match, but I knew it would do good because both these guys are great performers. So I wanted something really special to open the show, something hot to kick us off. So I think that's a great way to start the show. And about that, had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. The Dawson brothers defeated Dolce Tormenta and Radar in 10:46 when Zane Dawson submitted Dolce Tormenta. 39, ideally everything would be in the 40s to keep it green, but we can't really expect that to be the case with every single match. I'm still pretty happy with a 39, and Dave Dawson not fucking us over as much as he did in round 1 of the tournament, so that's good. Can't really complain about that. And about that, great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Excess Prime defeated Cal Jack in 9:46 by submission. Purely a momentum-based thing. Cal Jack, we talked in the last episode about potentially booking him a bit stronger now that he is putting on good performances, and I think I will do that, but at the moment he still has a lot of momentum to lose because we had him squashing jobbers for a while. So I want him to be able to share the love and give that momentum to the people who need it, and then we can start looking at ways to book him. I know to the audience it might make him seem a bit weaker. We might not be able to build him as the strong grizzly gimmick that he has, but we will definitely start using him in a more legitimate fashion in the near future. And about had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Rachel Rose defeated Johnny Robbie in 9:48 by pinfall. Again, just a momentum-based thing. Johnny Robbie, I've talked about being someone I want to book quite strongly, but because I have been doing that, again, she just had momentum to give. And about had superb wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Lowrider defeated Ace Perry in 10:58 by submission. 44, that is awesome stuff. You love to see it. Now, these guys have fought before. I try not to do rematches, but these guys haven't fought in like 9 months, I think. Other than they had a three-way match at one point, but one-on-one they haven't fought in 9 months. So I thought it was worth redoing, especially because these are two of the best performers on the roster, so I knew they'd smash it, and that's exactly what they've done. Now, we move on to a tag team match with some pretty big signings. I don't know what the thumbnail of this episode is going to be, but this new tag team very well might be the thumbnail for all I know. But in a good match, Hyun and Maya World defeated Zeta Zhang and Izzy Marino in 11:43 when Hyun pinned Izzy Marino with a beauty sleep. Izzy was the weak link, to be expected. 36-7 rating. Was hoping for a little better there, but yeah, look. So, okay, Hyun and Maya World are now on the Fusion Pro Wrestling roster. That's why we're booking this on a Sunday, not a Saturday, because they were busy with AEW on Saturday. But they are officially on the roster, and I'm very excited about that. We're at the stage where I'm going to start maybe splurging a little bit more cash for some roster members, especially if I recognize the people. I feel so much more invested when I know who they are. Like, it's fun to learn wrestlers through TEW, but I enjoy knowing the wrestlers heading into it because then I have a better understanding of how to book them, basically. Now, I will say the most we're paying for any in-ring roster members at the moment is like $30, I think, but they're $70 each. So we're spending a fair bit more money, but I think it's going to be worth it in the long run. Admittedly, Maya World, not the best performance there. 31 I would accept from someone that I'm paying my regular prices of 20-30 bucks, but for an AEW signed talent who is one of the most expensive talents on my roster, that's a bit disappointing. Hyun, on the other hand, really good, can't complain there, but overall, good stuff. Izzy Marino is the other factor into this match, in the sense that I have been booking her for nearly a year now. I think December of 2026 is when I signed her, or when I first booked her, and this is the first time she's broken the 20s. She just got 20, and she has not been performing well at all, even in this tag team with Zeta Zhang. So unfortunately, it might be time for us to release Izzy. I'm not going to do anything just yet, but I seriously have to consider, like, she might have to be cut from the roster, unfortunately. Anyways, it is time for the main event. Sonico, Stephen Wolf, FPW World Championship. Here we go. In a bout that had superb wrestling and good heat, Stephen Wolf defeated Sonico in 13:33 by pinfall with a treaty breaker. Stephen Wolf wins the FPW World Championship. That is right. Sonico is no longer the world champion. Now, I have it's funny because whenever I kind of book in advance, I'll book 2 or 3 shows at most, because that's what I'm going to do in an episode of the YouTube version of the series, you know. But for this, I've booked 6 shows at least. I'm going all the way to the anniversary, so I know what the storyline is going to be up until the anniversary show. And in order to do that, we have a new world champion. Now, I will admit, I did have a very specific storyline in mind, and then as I was kind of literally writing down my ideas on a notepad, I got a comment on the previous episode from someone suggesting a really cool storyline idea. I was like, you know what? I like that. I'm going to try and factor it in. So the storyline I've come up with is kind of my storyline mixed with the one that was suggested in the comments. So thank you to whoever did that. I didn't catch your username, but I will give you my praise for that. But yeah, the note to take away here is that we finally have a new champion. The seemingly unbeatable champion has been beaten. Now, this is, and I will say this, because if you're watching the match for the in-universe crowd, it's very prevalent that while Sonico is technically healed from his injury, it still caused him problems. Maybe he had like a taped up chest or something, but it was causing him problems, and people kind of took note of that and were like, well, he wasn't at 100%. So that definitely played a big factor in the match. The other thing to take away from this match is that segment rating, 48. That is awesome. That is, I think 52 is our best. Then second, we have 2 matches on 49, if I remember correctly, and then it's 48. So this is a top 5 match, basically. So I am very, very happy about that. That about does it. We're going to finish the show there. Increase pop in one region. Okay, that reminds me. I talked in the last episode about how if we gain 1 popularity every show, then the anniversary show will be the first time we can officially broadcast an event. That's my goal, but I can't obviously kind of hinge on the fact that I might get a point every show. So for the month of September, I'm going to be running 2 shows just in case I don't gain a point on one of these shows. So essentially, if we go finish show, okay, well, popular recap is down there, but if everything has worked out, this show will put us on 17 popularity, and that means we'll be at tiny size, which means we've taken a massive step forward. And then, come January, we will be on 20 pop, which means we can broadcast the anniversary show on YouTube. That is the overall plan. So let's have a look. Address the locker room. As per usual, I'm doing Zeta Zhang, because first and foremost, she did just put on a great performance, and we need her to improve her morale. And I think, you know what, I'm gonna start praising Hyun, because she came in and put on a good performance, even if her tag team partner did not. Zeta was happy. Hyun saying please. It's also worth noting Hyun is date. I assume this is a real world thing as well. Maybe it's just in game. I have no idea. But is partners with Stephen Wolf, like they're dating. So that helps out, like backstage factor and everything. So really cool stuff. I should also mention, we just did Stephen Wolf Sonico. I did my research. They've fought before. They've had like a championship match before, Stephen Wolf and Sonico, in the real world. I couldn't find the match, but I could find a clip of like the aftermath of the match. And you know, I'm actually not going to talk about that video because that did kind of influence what my storyline is going to be. So you can go and look at it yourself if you want, but yeah, there is a video that exists. Financial report, we lost $203. That's actually really good because... Oh, actually, no. I was going to say we've upgraded our music, so that's going to be an extra $100 off of each show, but this doesn't take into account the production values, so 203 is still really good. Pop. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. We didn't gain a point here. That's why we have a second show in September. So by the end of September, mark my words, we will be at tiny size. Mark my words. Post show complete. All right, I will, unless anything happens, I will see you guys for the next show. Okay, so we are back in front of 176 people at the Frost Studio Theater for FPW Live number 22. We kick things off with a bout that had great wrestling and good heat. Lowrider defeated Maya World in 9:02 by pinfall. I thought kind of after Maya World's performance in her debut, I don't know if because I'll admit she's one of the franchise players now. Like because she's with AEW, she's got some pop. So as soon as we signed her, her and Hyon became the second and third franchise players. Number one still being Zeta Zhang. So I was good at booking them quite prominently. But Maya World, I think the performances aren't matching. So we have to book her a little bit differently and hope that she kind of evolves into a new FPW position, I guess. So in this match, she's just giving some momentum, as most of the roster tends to do. So Lowrider picking up the win there, and then we move into a segment. Sonico comes out to the ring to address the audience after losing the FPW World Championship to Stephen Wolf a few weeks ago. He knows how annoying it is when people make excuses for losing, but he is adamant that he was not at 100% during that match. He was still recovering from his broken ribs, and it's his own fault for rushing back into competition when he shouldn't have. All he's asking for is an opportunity to earn back the title that he wouldn't have otherwise lost. He knows that when he's at his best, Stephen Wolf can't beat him, and he will fight for the opportunity to prove that. For extra context, Sonico has beaten Stephen Wolf before, earlier in the series. But yeah, Sonico just wants to have a rematch when he's at full health, basically. It's also worth noting that despite it saying Stephen Wolf in the segment, he is appearing purely off screen. He's just being mentioned here. In a decent match, Shaz McKenzie defeated Izzy Marino in 7:40 by pinfall with a Shaz-tastic stunner. I came to the conclusion I am going to release Izzy, as unfortunate as it may be. So I offered her a new contract that was for the exact same money, except it only lasted a month. So that way I don't have to release her and have her be upset in case we, for whatever reason, want to bring her back. So I'm just going to let the contract expire. So yeah, she's just jobbing on her way out, and that's all this is. And about that had great wrestling and good heat. Alpha Zoe defeated Promise Braxton in 10:06 by submission. A 41.7 rating is actually really good. I didn't expect it quite from this match, but I will happily take that. Yeah, not a lot to comment on there. And about that had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. TNT defeated Ace Perry and Rachel Rose in 10:15 when Terrell Hughes pinned Ace Perry with a Dudley Death Drop. Now, something that is interesting to note here, at the recommendation of someone in the comments, I have signed Devon Dudley. And the purpose of signing Devon Dudley is, first of all, he's a road agent. He's our new senior road agent, which means we're going to have to praise Vinny Massaro so that he's not so upset anymore because I had to take him off of that position. But he has better road agent skills. He's, I think, $170 per show, so still quite expensive, but that's around the price of Todd Kennelly. And also, there's the benefit that Devon is the father of TNT, Terrell and Terrence Hughes. So, yeah, I thought that was a win-win, basically. And about that had superb wrestling and good heat. Stephen Wolf defeated Ruben Steele in 12:36 by pinfall with a treaty breaker. They have great chemistry, which is awesome to see. These guys have fought before, but it's been a hot minute. 45 rating is great. Stephen Wolf getting in the 50s, you love to see it. But to follow up from that, Stephen Wolf grabs the microphone after the match to address Sonico's comments earlier in the show, noting the fact that Sonico has had the spotlight since day one of FPW. Now, Wolf is not only the Ultimate 8 Series winner, but he has beaten the unbeatable champion to become the new FPW World Champ. No matter what excuses Sonico makes, he lost fair and square. This moment belongs to him now, so Sonico should stop trying to shine the spotlight back on himself. So, this goes a little bit into what I said during the last show of Sonico and Stephen Wolf have fought in real life, but I couldn't find the match. I could only find an after the match clip, and in the clip, Stephen Wolf was acting very obnoxious, very heel, very cocky. So essentially what I'm kind of trying to do is, I don't want to make him a full-on heel, because FPW doesn't really deal in faces and heels, at least not yet. But I didn't want him to shy away from being kind of cocky about his win and being the champion and stuff like that. So that's kind of the approach we're taking here with Steven. As for how that will play out, we will see. I already know the answer to that, unless, of course, someone breaks their ribs and changes the booking. I do know how this run's going to play out, but you guys will have to wait and see. And about that had superb wrestling and good heat. Zeta Zhang defeated Dave Dawson in 10:57 by submission with a sleeper hold. 44 is a great match. Yeah, this was really, I needed to put Zeta on the card. She was always going to be on it regardless, but I wanted to give her a good match so that I had a reason to praise her again. And 48, that worked. But with that said, it is time for the main event. I will tell you guys what the main event is now before we get into it, because the commentators will have been hyping it up, or Todd Kennelly will have been hyping it up throughout the show. It is, the FPW board wanted to see who would be the first challenger for Stephen Wolf's world title, so they have thrown together a 5-person elimination match, the winner getting a shot next month. So let's have a look. And about that had great wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Halt defeated Ryan Davidson, Cal Jack, Trey Lamar, and Zane Dawson in an elimination match in 14:35. The order of elimination was Cal Jack, Zane Dawson, Ryan Davidson, and finally Trey Lamar. So Halt wins the match. Of course, like I said, she's like the number 2 franchise player, so it just made sense. But also, I was saying earlier in the episode, she is like dating Stephen Wolf, so it's going to be a fun little match to have. It's going to be the two partners going up against each other, which I always think is a fun concept. Like, I enjoyed watching like Johnny Gargano versus Candice LeRae, stuff like that, you know. So yeah, Halt's the number 1 contender. She's a great performer, and not a lot to really go over there. So if we go pre-book match, we're going to have ourselves Stephen Wolf and Halt. It is going to be for the World Championship. Times and rotation notes I will change in the actual show once we get to it. But that is the show. That is everything. We had 4 matches in the green. That is actually awesome. The show didn't result in any popularity changes. What the hell? The fans were disappointed that of the storylines further during the show, none really had any drastic stakes. Well, that's because it was only angles, not matches, I guess. But no popularity changes. Oh, you know what it'll be? Well, actually, okay, no, this is a theory. I don't know if this is accurate or not. I think there is a cap to how much popularity you can gain within a month, right? And at insignificant level, which we're still at, that cap is quite low. So we've hit the cap, but it just wasn't a full point, because it works in percentages and decimals, right? If you go into the in-game editor, it works to I think a 10th decimal point, maybe, if I remember correctly. So I think we've hit our cap. It just didn't get us the point. The problem with that means, if that is the cap, which I could be completely wrong here, but if that is the cap, we're going to get to Tiny Size next month in October. November will hit 18, December will hit 19, January will hit 20, but January is the anniversary show, and we need to be 20 already to broadcast it. So I think what I need to do is have 2 shows in January. One earlier in the month that will get us to 20 pop, and one later in the month that will be the anniversary show. I think that's what I need to do, because the anniversary I really, really want to broadcast. So yeah, I think that's what's gonna happen. It sucks, but it's got to be done. Address the locker room. We already know what we're doing. Zeta Zhang, Vinny Massaro. Again, they still did good with their jobs, so I don't feel bad about praising them. Very happy, seemed pleased. Financial report, we lost 384. That was a larger card. It was 7 matches with a tag and a 5-way. And Sonico was on the show, even though he wasn't wrestling. And Devon was there. So there was a lot going on. Over $1,000 in worker costs. Yeah. Disappointing stuff there. Oh, actually, Nick Wayne's here. I will say Nick Wayne is someone I'm looking at signing, because he's not in... he's been released by... No, he hasn't been released by TEW. He's just affordable, basically. But I'm waiting for him to get off injury, so... Anyways, yeah, I will see you guys in the next show. Again, I'm going to have to... I don't know. I'll have to figure it out, because some changes have to be made now. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, so it is time for the final show of the episode. This is FPW Live 23. We have 176 people in attendance at the Frost Studio Theater. And I'll say, if we, for whatever reason, don't gain popularity on this show, then basically my entire plans go down the drain. So we really need to get just one single point of popularity on this show. If we can't get to 20 pop by the anniversary show and broadcast it, that's gonna suck. But if we can't get to tiny size in general by this show, I'm screwed. So fingers crossed. Okay, a couple things to go over. Actually, not even that. 2 matches that are being advertised for this card. One is that Sonico, who has been calling out the champ, is going to have a singles bout. His first bout since the injury. Well, technically the title defense was since the injury, but he's claiming otherwise. But he's having a match with Exodus Prime, who, for anyone who doesn't know, is the tag team partner of Stephen Wolf. So that's going to be an interesting little bout to have. And the main event will, of course, be Stephen Wolf defending the world title to Han. And it will be announced... in canon, it'll probably be like a social media post or something, because I'm not doing it through a segment. But I'm going to tell you guys, the YouTube viewers, that I have made the decision to officially introduce a tag team championship. Now, the tag team titles will be crowned at the 2nd anniversary show. That means we have... I'm not doing anything on this show, but we have a couple of the shows between now and the anniversary. I think at least 3 shows. 2 or 3 shows where we can do some qualifiers. And the way it's going to work is there's going to be 3 qualifying matches, so 6 teams, and the 3 winners will go into a 3-way tag team match at the anniversary. Those teams are, if I can remember them off by heart, we have Dolce Tormenta and Radar, we have TNT, the Dawson Brothers, we have Hyan and Maya World, we have Alpha Zoe and Trey Lamar, and the 6th team is a mystery. And when I say a mystery, I mean I don't yet know who it's going to be, because it can't be Superiority Complex because the world champion is in that team, and it can't be Izzy Marino and Zeta Zhang because Izzy Marino is now officially no longer on the FPW roster. So it's either going to be a team I throw together of pre-existing FPW members, or I might sign a tag team. We'll have to wait and see. But that is happening. Just want to give you guys the heads up, even though it's still going to be a couple months down the road. But we're going to start building to it in the next episode. Anyways, as I said at the start of this segment, we have 176 people in attendance at the Frost Studio Theater for FPW Live 23. And about that had good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Promise Braxton defeated Dolce Tormenta in 9:39 by pinfall. 35 is about what I would expect. Bit of momentum to be won there. And about that had superb wrestling and good heat. Sonico defeated Exodus Prime in 11:32 by pinfall with an EMF. 44, you can always expect a good match out of Sonico unless he's defending the championship to Zeta Zhang for some reason. So Sonico manages to beat his would-be rival's tag team partner, and that leads us into this segment. Sonico stands tall after his victory over Exodus Prime. However, there's a bit of tension between them after the match, stemming from the comments made between Sonico and Prime's tag team partner Stephen Wolf. Sonico decides to cut the tension and get straight to the point. He grabs a microphone and tells Prime to deliver a message to Wolf that his words last month were weak and that he will be coming to reclaim the world title one way or another. He doesn't have to wait long for a response as Stephen Wolf comes out to the ring. Wolf says he doesn't have time for this crap because he has a title defense to prepare for tonight, but ever since he won the title, all people have talked about is Sonico and the fact that he was injured during the title match. They don't care that Wolf had to climb a mountain to be here. He's sick of it, so he's not going to give in to Sonico's demands for a title match, but he does want a match nonetheless. Next month, Sonico is to find himself a partner and meet Superiority Complex for a tag bout. He then helps Prime to the back, leaving Sonico standing victorious among the FPW crowd. So, FPW Live 24, we're going to see Superiority Complex of Stephen Wolf and Exodus Prime taking on Sonico and a yet-to-be-decided tag team partner. Pretty excited for that match. It should hopefully be good. It's not the first time Superiority Complex have fought Sonico in tag team action. There was one point much earlier in the series where Sonico teamed with Zeta Zhang to take on Superiority Complex, and I'm pretty sure Sonico and Zeta Zhang won, but there wasn't as much stakes with that match as there is this one. Also, Sonico has a gimmick that is getting stale. I'm going to have to tweak his gimmick if I can. In a good match, Maya World defeated Chaz McKenzie in 8:57 by pinfall with a World of Trouble. Again, just a bit of momentum to be gained there. And about the head, superb wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd. Ryan Davidson defeated Ace Perry in 10:56 by pinfall with a frog splash. A 44 segment rating. These are two of our best performers, so that's to be expected. You love to see it. 47s from both is incredible stuff. And about the head, superb wrestling and good heat. Rachel Rose and the Dawson brothers defeated Johnny Robbie and Alpha Zoe and Trey Lamar in 12 minutes 10 seconds when Dave Dawson pinned Alpha Zoe. Another 44 segment rating. That is awesome stuff. It's been a pretty solid show so far. Some really good segment ratings. I'm really hopeful that the main event, which is up next, I believe, holds up. I really want it to be a good match. I should also mention, as you guys have probably noticed, Zeta Zhang has not been on the card. That is because she's back in our good books. She has favorable morale now. However, if you go to her personal details, which I know you guys can't, but when I click on her personal details and I see her relationships, it says she doesn't have a very good relationship with Sonico, Trey Lamar, or me. And that's just because I always do team bonding before the shows, and when she had negative morale, if I did team bonding with someone who had negative morale, they would worsen their relationship. And she worsened her relationship with a lot of people, but Sonico, Trey Lamar, and myself are the only ones who I guess got it bad enough that it's listed as a negative relationship. So hopefully we can rebuild that bond, especially between myself and Zeta Zhang. But, hopefully we can fix it. Anyways, main event time, World Championship defense, Stephen Wolf, Hyan. It's a very kind of inconsequential title match, but I didn't want Stephen Wolf to, and I mean, you can probably figure out that Stephen's going to win the match, but I didn't want Stephen to go from like September all the way through to January without a title defense. That's essentially all this is. And about the head, superb wrestling and good heat. Stephen Wolf defeated Hyan in 15:23 by pinfall with a treaty breaker. Stephen Wolf makes defense number 1 of the world title. A 49 segment rating. That is our equal second best match. Very, very happy about that. It's the best match that doesn't have Sonico in it. It is interesting that Hyan had a little bit of a weaker performance, but thankfully Stephen Wolf carried. He's getting like a 56 might be, if I remember correctly, might be his best performance yet. Actually, maybe, I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Vinny Massaro was the road agent. He wasn't supposed to be. That was supposed to be Devon. But I am not complaining either way. Finished the show increased our pop in one region. Hopefully, that means we get a point of popularity. Because it may not. It could just mean that we got a decimal, a fraction of popularity, and not actually a point. So let's finish the show, address the locker room. We want to try and get Vinny Massaro back in our good graces. And who do we think? You know what? I think Stephen Wolf deserves it after giving us the best match that doesn't have Sonico in it. Vinny was pleased. Steven seemed pleased. Financial report, we lost 304. That is okay. Popular recap. Here we go. Fingers crossed. Holy shit, we've done it. I came into this episode so confident that the very first show of the episode would get us to tiny size, and it didn't. And then the show after that didn't. And so this one, I was like, I had my theory about the popularity cap per month, and I still think that's what it is. But I was so worried that this was going to be the same case. But we are officially at tiny size. This is a milestone in this series. I don't think I've played plenty of local to globals before, and I've hit this milestone before, but that's easy enough. You start with some pop, even if you start insignificant, you start with some pop. But I've never done a 0000 challenge before. I was going to say I've never done a 0000 before where I've committed long enough to reach tiny size, but I don't know if I've ever done a 00 challenge before. Maybe I have. I think I talked about it in the first episode. I don't remember. Anyways, we're now tiny size. Very, very happy about that. Okay, we're going to head back to the main screen and do a recap there. We're going to check our finances. We're going to read the sweet, sweet news that we're tiny size. And yeah, we will wrap things up there. Okay, we are back on the main screen. Two things. First of all, the report. It was apparently a great show from them. You'd love to see it. And then, it's glorious. Following their recent growth, now is a very dangerous time for Fusion Pro Wrestling. For the next few months, they must walk the fine line between confidence and overconfidence as they look to capitalize on their current success without overreaching and damaging their own long-term prospects. I think we'll be fine. I think we will. Royal Quest happened. That's some cool stuff there. I don't tend to pay too much attention to what's happening in the other promotions, but Sami Zayn raising money for charity. You'd love to see it. Okay. So, we now have a minimum roster that we need, 16. We have 23, so we're chilling there. We're doing fine. I am still going to try and get some more roster signings regardless. But we have 15K. Obviously, normally when I do the end of episode recaps, I simulate to the end of the month so that we can see how much money we've made once the month concludes. I'm not going to do that because now we're in the middle of the month instead of the end of the month. But I will point out, last month we made $1,000, which is less than previous months. But keep in mind, that's the month where we had 2 shows and we had an increased production value with the music as well. So the fact that we still made $1,000 with 2 shows and increased costs is awesome. Very, very happy about that. Okay, I don't think there's really anything to go over. Extremely hot, cool. I do want to have a look though. How are the other companies doing financially? NXT doesn't count. Choco Pro is negative 16K. So now that we're... Oh no, they're small size. Okay. I was kind of hoping if there was... North was the one that I was originally looking at, but I was like, if there is any other promotion that is tiny size, that is in debt, but not so much debt that we can't afford it, I might buy out a company for the sole purpose of, if I can put them back on track to make money, then I have an extra income kind of avenue. But it looks like North have kind of maybe fixed their shit. Who knows? And then Choco Pro are small. We need to be buying people that are our size or higher. I don't think there's anything else to go over. I feel like there was something I wanted to show, but I don't remember. Maybe I mentioned it. Anyways, it's beside the point. This is the end of the episode. It has been grueling to try and get that 1 point to get us to tiny size in this episode, but we finally did it, and I am so happy. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this episode, and thank you for your continued support. It really does mean the world to me. You guys continuing to watch and to comment, especially, I love the comments every single time, whether you are helping me with something that I'm just too dumb to understand in TEW, or you're giving me ideas for wrestlers to sign, for storylines to do, whatever the case may be. I love comments that get you guys involved. So thank you guys so much for that. That's what keeps me motivated to keep doing this series. And I'm excited in general just to keep the ball rolling, because now we're on the path to our 2nd anniversary. So yeah, and don't forget, we've got the tag team championships coming soon as well. But that'll start in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.